Beyond the Gates spoilers for the week of August 17th to 21st suggest that Fairmont Crest is heading into another chaotic stretch, with Chelsea Hamilton facing unresolved trauma, Andre Richardson dealing with a dangerous blast from the past, and Heather Armstrong suddenly finding herself hunted by someone close to home. I think this could be one of those weeks where several storylines start colliding at once. There's romance, family tension, old secrets, medical drama, and enough questionable decisions to keep everyone in trouble. Let's start with Andre and Heather, because this storyline looks like it could get especially messy. During the Friday, August 14th episode, Heather was revealed as the person stalking Andre and Danny Dupree. Now that secret is finally out, I'm wondering just how much we're about to learn about Heather's history with them. Whatever happened in the past clearly hasn't stayed buried. But Heather may not have much time to focus on Andre and Danny. As the new week begins, Joey Armstrong reportedly has Randy Parker follow Heather. Will they uncover her connection to Andre? I wouldn't be surprised if this investigation exposes something Heather desperately wants to keep hidden. Meanwhile, Andre and Danny are both expected to cross some lines. To me, that suggests neither one is being completely honest, and their secrets could eventually create even bigger problems between them. Across town, Bill Hamilton gets an unexpected visit from Vernon Dupree. Vernon wants answers about Bill's intentions toward Danny, and I think this confrontation could be more serious than Bill expects. Still, Bill apparently won't learn his lesson, because later in the week, he'll flirt with disaster once again. Bill and Ted Richardson will also take a trip down memory lane as they reminisce about their past. I'm curious whether those memories will reveal something important about their history or simply give us another piece of the puzzle surrounding the Richardson and Hamilton families. Over at the Hawthorne household, Naomi Hawthorne and Tomas Navarro continue butting heads. Tomas seems determined to give Naomi a hard time, even while she's dealing with her father's latest medical crisis. Will Tomas finally put his ego aside and support Naomi when she needs him? I'd like to think so, but honestly, probably not. The good news is that Naomi has something positive coming her way. Jacob Hawthorne is planning a surprise and gets some assistance from Ashley Morgan and Grayson Perez. I think this could provide Naomi with a much-needed emotional break from everything happening around her. Meanwhile, Chelsea Hamilton and Catherine "Cat" Richardson are turning up the heat with their latest Chelsea Cat purse design. The project sounds fun, but it could also attract the kind of social media attention they weren't expecting. More importantly, Chelsea will be forced to confront unresolved trauma from her past. That immediately makes me wonder about Allison, Chelsea's former kidnapper and ex-gal pal. Could Allison somehow return to the picture? Or will something else trigger Chelsea's memories? Either way, I think this storyline could become much darker than the purse drama initially suggests. Elsewhere, Dr. Madison Montgomery finds herself caught between conflicting stories from two rivals. The big question is whether Haley Hamilton is somehow connected to what Madison is hearing. Considering Madison is Bill's doctor, and Haley is desperately trying to keep her poisoning scheme hidden, I don't think this is a coincidence. Madison could unknowingly be getting closer to the truth. Speaking of Haley, she's apparently going to clash with just about everyone. First, she'll have a confrontation with Ashley, which could involve Bill's healthcare or his medical visits. Then, as the weekend approaches, Haley will have another heated encounter with Danny. At this point, I think Haley is becoming increasingly desperate. The more people she argues with, the greater the chance that somebody notices something isn't adding up. Nurse Shanice Johnson also receives a shocking request. We don't know exactly what that request involves yet, but given everything happening around the hospital, I wouldn't rule out another major development. Nicole Dupree will have plenty happening in her personal life, too. She's now exclusively dating Dr. Kyle Rollins, and Vanessa McBride wants all the details about the new relationship. At the same time, Dr. Carlton Fitzgerald updates Ted about his decision to walk away from Nicole. So while Nicole is moving forward with Kyle, Carlton is apparently trying to close that chapter. Nicole will also have a chance to play the hero when she saves the day for Kyle's son, Noah Rollins. That could bring Nicole and Kyle even closer. However, Friday brings another twist when Nicole has an unexpected reaction to a situation and begins questioning her own behavior while spending time with Kyle. Could she accidentally scare him away? I think that's definitely possible, especially if Nicole starts overthinking the relationship. Then there's Eva Thomas, who appears ready to stir up trouble for Leslie Thomas. Eva will trigger Leslie emotionally, leaving her feeling like she can't truly move forward without making peace with something from the past. That sounds like another storyline where old wounds refuse to stay buried. Eva will also have a serious conversation with Isaiah Hawthorne about some difficult truths. Will honesty bring them closer, or will it push them even further apart? I'm leaning toward more complications before anything gets resolved. Finally, Bradley Smitty Smith does something that disappoints Martin Richardson, while Vernon's plans involving Anita Dupree are unexpectedly interrupted. So overall, I think the week of August 17th to 21st is shaping up to be packed with secrets, confrontations, emotional trauma, romance, and questionable choices. Heather is being hunted. Andre and Danny are keeping secrets. Chelsea is confronting her past. Haley is scrambling to protect her scheme. Naomi is dealing with family problems, and Nicole may be risking her new relationship. In other words, Fairmont Crest is about to get very messy. And I think these 5 episodes could deliver plenty of moments that fans won't want to miss. I think the latest Beyond the Gates promo is making one thing pretty clear. Secrets are finally starting to come out of the woodwork, and several people in the DMV are about to be caught completely off guard. Some of these surprises could be exciting, while others look like they're going to create serious problems. Jacob and his friends are planning a big surprise for Naomi, and I have a feeling this could be one of the more positive moments coming up. But Kat and Chelsea have news of their own, and judging from Anita's reaction, it's definitely not what she was expecting. I may be wrong, but that reaction makes me wonder if their announcement could have much bigger consequences than they realize. Then there's Andre, who has been receiving unsettling messages from someone connected to his past. Whoever this person is, Andre clearly does not want them anywhere near him. Unfortunately for him, it looks like running from the past isn't going to work. Andre is apparently headed for a reunion with Heather, Joey's nefarious sister, and that immediately raises some major questions. What exactly happened between Andre and Heather in the past? Why is he so uncomfortable with the possibility of her being in town? To me, this feels like one of those storylines where the truth could completely change how we view Andre. Meanwhile, Eva is furious with her mother for throwing away what seemed like a sure thing while continuing to hold out hope for Ted. And Ted himself isn't exactly sitting quietly. He's giving Carlton a serious piece of his mind, so I'm wondering if this conflict is about to escalate. Bill's hospitalization is also creating problems for Danny. After everything that happened with her ex, Danny's family is worried that she could be slipping back into old patterns. Things became even more concerning when Danny referred to Bill as her husband while arguing with Haley. Now Bill is still in the hospital, but he has another visitor to deal with. His ex-father-in-law, Vernon. And Vernon wants answers. He needs Bill to be completely honest with him, especially when it comes to Danny. So the biggest question is whether Bill is actually trying to get Danny back. I think there's more going on here than simply unresolved feelings, and Vernon may be determined to uncover exactly what Bill's intentions are. With so many secrets surfacing at once, Beyond the Gates seems to be setting up some major confrontations. I'm especially curious about Andre and Heather, because their shared history could reveal a side of Andre we haven't seen before. And if that wasn't enough, another unexpected bond is about to form between 2 characters connected by their past, while Nicole is forced to take a hard look at herself. To me, the real question isn't just who is hiding secrets anymore. It's what happens when those secrets finally come out. Andre's past has officially come back to tempt him on Beyond the Gates, and I think the timing couldn't be more complicated. Things aren't exactly going smoothly between Andre and Danny, and now Heather, the mysterious woman from his past, has found her way back into his life. From my perspective, this could be the beginning of a much bigger problem for Andre and his marriage. The weekly preview kicks off with a surprise celebration for Naomi. Jacob, Ashley, and Grayson are doing their best to lift her spirits while she deals with her father's health struggles. The four raise their glasses and cans and toast with a cheerful "Salud!" It's a sweet moment, but with everything happening in Naomi's world, I have a feeling the happiness may not last long. Meanwhile, Chelsea and Kat sit down with the queen herself, Anita Dupree, to present a business idea they're clearly excited about. Unfortunately, their grandmother doesn't exactly share their enthusiasm. "We want to call it the Nikki," Kat cautiously explains. Anita's response says everything. "Child, are you trying to get disowned?" I think Chelsea and Kat may have underestimated just how sensitive that name would be. Nikki is what Leslie often calls Nicole, so there's obviously some history attached to it. What seemed like a clever business name to Chelsea and Kat suddenly becomes a potential family landmine. And then we finally get the moment I've been waiting to see between Andre and Heather. "It's good to see you," Andre says nervously when he comes face to face with the woman from his past, the same woman who has been texting him and sending champagne bottles to his wife. Heather's response is even more revealing. "Now you can thank me in person." The two are standing extremely close, and to me, that tells us Heather isn't simply trying to reconnect with an old friend. I was already wondering why she was so determined to become friendly with Danny, and now it makes a lot more sense. If Heather wants access to Andre, getting close to his wife could be the perfect strategy. Of course, we don't know everything Heather wants yet, so I could be wrong, but I definitely don't think she has returned to town just to reminisce about the past. Elsewhere, Eva has had enough of Leslie refusing to face reality. She tells her mother exactly what she thinks. "You are still stuck on Dad," Eva explains. "I hate that you're willing to toss aside a sure thing for a never-going-to-happen thing." That is a brutal reality check. And I think this conversation could be the push Leslie needs to finally make a move. She has spent so much time emotionally tied to the past that Eva is basically telling her she's throwing away something real for something that may never happen. Then we have Ted and Carlton, and their history is just as complicated. Ted's actions cost him his marriage to Nicole. Even worse, he had to watch his best friend and business partner, Carlton, begin dating his ex-wife. But once Ted finally accepted that his marriage was over, his feelings apparently changed. He actually preferred Nicole being with Carlton rather than Kyle, and he made that clear. Now Ted and Carlton have a tense conversation. "There were many days I wanted to deck you," Ted admits. Carlton doesn't back down. "If you still want to work that out, I'm sitting right here." That exchange tells me these two men have come a long way, but there is still plenty of unresolved tension underneath the surface. I wouldn't be surprised if their friendship gets tested again before things settle down. Finally, Vernon pays Bill a visit in the hospital, but this is definitely not a simple get-well call. Vernon wants to know exactly what Bill intends to do about Danny. Bill makes it clear that being sick doesn't mean he's unaware of what's happening around him. "I'm sick, not blind," Bill says. Vernon has no interest in playing games. "Well, cut the crap. Are you trying to rekindle something with Danny?" And honestly, that may be the question everyone watching has been waiting to hear. Bill and Danny have history, and with Andre dealing with his own problems, the timing could not be worse. I think Vernon sees the danger before anyone else does. If Bill really is trying to reconnect with Danny, this situation could turn into another major complication for her and Andre. So, looking at the entire August 17th to 21st preview, I think the biggest stories are clearly about the past refusing to stay in the past. Heather is back in Andre's orbit. Bill may be circling back toward Danny. Leslie is still emotionally trapped by her history with Ted, and even Ted and Carlton are being forced to confront old resentment. To me, Beyond the Gates is setting up a week where old relationships, unfinished business, and buried feelings could create some very messy consequences. Beyond the Gates may soon see Randy Parker making a desperate move against Haley Lawson, because I think her sloppy poisoning scheme could end up destroying both of their lives. Randy has warned Haley repeatedly about increasing Bill Hamilton's poison dosage, just to speed things up and turn her into a wealthy widow. But Haley is clearly tired of waiting. She wants Bill dead, and she seems willing to take bigger and bigger risks to make that happen. The problem is, Bill went down, but he's not out. Thanks to Caroline Lee, Bill is still alive. And honestly, I think that could be very bad news for both Randy and Haley. The big question now is whether Randy takes the fall for Haley's scheme, or whether he decides that the only way to save himself is to take Haley out of the equation. Bill is now facing the possibility of needing a pacemaker, and there are still no clear answers about why his health is deteriorating so rapidly. Joey Armstrong stopped by the hospital and gave Bill some important advice. Get a second opinion. I'm wondering if Bill will actually take that advice and consult doctors outside Garland Memorial. Because somewhere in Bill's body, there is a toxin causing all of this damage. Bill doesn't know that yet. Madison Montgomery hasn't discovered it either. And Randy himself reminded Haley that the toxin was supposed to leave no trace. But Randy clearly isn't completely confident anymore, especially now that Haley has been giving Bill much higher doses. That is exactly why the St. Bart's plan was so important. Haley needed Bill to die somewhere outside the country, where there would be no proper autopsy and where she could potentially manipulate the paperwork. The idea was simple. Bill dies, the cause of death gets covered up, his remains come home in an urn, and Haley walks away with the money. But St. Bart's was a complete bust. Now Bill is alive, and I think it may only be a matter of time before someone figures out that he has been poisoned repeatedly. And once that happens, Randy could suddenly become very nervous. Because I don't see Haley confessing. I don't see her willingly going to prison and taking responsibility for everything she has done. Haley has already shown just how ruthless she can be. So, if it comes down to Randy versus Haley, I think Haley would throw Randy under the bus without hesitation. And that could put Randy in a very dangerous position. With Bill still in the hospital and Madison presumably returning from Denmark, I expect Madison to start digging for answers. At the same time, Bill may follow Joey's advice and seek another medical opinion. If another doctor discovers something suspicious, Randy could find himself exposed. But there is another problem that could put Randy directly in Bill's crosshairs: the cheating rumors. There is still that rumor that Haley and Randy are having an affair, and Bill already knows about it. Haley got ahead of the accusation by telling Bill that Danny Dupree had accused her and Randy of sleeping together. Bill believed Haley's denials. He basically dismissed the whole thing as Danny, Chelsea Hamilton, and Naomi picking on poor little Haley. But I'm not sure that is going to last. Danny and the girls don't seem ready to let this go. And while they are technically wrong about Haley cheating on Bill, because Haley is actually trying to kill him rather than sleep with Randy, the continued accusations could still cause a major problem. If Chelsea, Naomi Hamilton, Danny, and even Kat Richardson keep pushing the story, Bill may eventually start questioning Haley's version of events. And if Bill begins to believe that Randy really slept with his wife, Randy could have an entirely different problem on his hands. Because Bill Hamilton is not exactly the kind of man who handles betrayal calmly. He's usually the one doing the cheating. He's not used to being the husband who gets cheated on. So imagine Bill discovering that Randy, someone he already has reason to distrust, allegedly hooked up with Haley behind his back. I think Randy could suddenly become a target. Bill might even turn to Joey for revenge. Joey has already heard about the rumor from Vernon Dupree, who had just learned about the alleged Haley-Randy affair. Vernon calling Joey about it was a huge red flag to me. It tells me that Vernon may actually believe the rumor. And if Vernon believes it, Joey might believe it too. If Bill eventually believes it, Randy could have 3 very powerful men convinced that he betrayed Bill. That could be disastrous. And then there's Heather Armstrong. Randy is already terrified of Joey. It doesn't seem like he merely respects Joey as his boss. He genuinely fears him. Now Joey has to deal with his sister Heather, who has shown that she may be even more dangerous and unpredictable than he is. Heather wants into Joey's business, and she already lied about why she was in the DC area. But Joey appears to be onto her. So, if everything starts collapsing at once, Randy could find himself trapped between Haley, Bill, Joey, and Heather. And I think that is where the real danger begins. Randy may eventually realize that Haley is not someone he can trust to protect him. If Bill discovers the poisoning, Haley could immediately point the finger at Randy. If Bill believes the affair rumor, Randy could become a revenge target. And if Joey decides Randy has betrayed Bill, Randy may not get a chance to explain himself. To me, Randy's biggest mistake may have been believing he could control Haley. He warned her about the dosage, he warned her about the risks, but Haley kept pushing forward anyway. Now Bill is still alive, the poison may eventually be discovered, and the entire plan could unravel. So maybe I'm wrong, but I think Randy is getting dangerously close to the moment where he has to choose between going down with Haley or turning on her first. And if Randy decides to save himself, I wouldn't be surprised if Haley suddenly becomes the person he has to eliminate before she can expose him. Because at this point, their partnership may be less of an alliance and more of a ticking time bomb. And I think Bill surviving St. Bart's may have just started the countdown. I think the biggest problem for Randy is that Heather is like a shark. Once she smells blood in the water, she starts looking for an opportunity. And Randy could be exactly the kind of opportunity she needs. I was wondering if Heather might attach herself to Randy as a way into her brother's world. If she discovers that Randy is already on Joey's radar, is mingling with Danny's ex, is close to Bill's wife, and works for her brother, she may see some serious blackmail potential. Heather could approach Randy as an ally and offer to protect him. But if Randy secretly starts working for Heather, Joey might just kill him. Another possibility is that Randy and Haley eventually turn on each other. Randy and Haley are cousins, and Randy has helped her pull off plenty of cons against men over the years. But Haley has always been about Haley. She will do whatever she has to do to save herself. And I think Randy may soon discover just how far she is willing to go. And that being family may not matter to her when her freedom is on the line. If the poison is found in Bill's system, I'm sure Danny, her daughters, and all the other people caught up in this mess will assume Haley is responsible. And they would be right. But then there's the cheating rumor. The whole story Danny, Chelsea, and Naomi are pushing about Haley having an affair could actually work in Haley's favor. She could make a false confession and say, "Yes, I'm cheating on Bill with Randy." Then she could play innocent and suggest that maybe her secret lover is actually the person targeting Bill. Can you imagine that? Haley could claim Randy was a jealous lover who wanted her all to himself, and that he poisoned Bill to get him out of the way. Of course, I think that plan would be extremely dangerous for Randy. If Haley tried to sacrifice him like that, Randy could flip on her and expose everything he knows, not just what she has done recently, but all of her past crimes too. And honestly, Randy might not even wait for Haley to betray him first. Right now, Danny, Chelsea, and Naomi are convinced that Randy is sleeping with Haley. But once the poison is discovered in Bill's system, Danny could circle back to Randy and demand to know exactly what he knows about Haley. Danny could tell Randy that if he refuses to cooperate, they will assume he and Haley were working together and that he helped her try to kill Bill, which, of course, would be accurate. But Danny could also throw Randy a lifeline. She might tell him, "Look, I can get you a deal with the DA if you throw Haley under the bus." And if Randy has to choose between prison and ratting out Haley, I think he would betray her in a heartbeat. Especially if he realizes Haley has already burned herself and there is no future money waiting for him. If Haley is finished running cons, then Randy has very little reason to stay loyal to her. Maybe Randy is just that cutthroat. Then there is one final possibility. Randy panics and runs. He already tried to escape once. If you remember, he stole money from Joey and took off. Randy would probably be dead already if Vanessa McBride and Doug McBride hadn't intervened and saved him from Joey's wrath. So this time, if Randy feels the walls closing in, I think he could run a lot farther and a lot faster than he did before. But ironically, Randy running could actually help Haley. She could point to his disappearance and say, "See, Randy ran because he's guilty." That would give Haley another way to distance herself from the crime and make Randy look like the mastermind. I may be wrong, but I just don't know if Randy could get far enough away for Joey to lose his trail. Joey has already shown that he can track Randy down, and if Randy becomes a liability, I don't think Joey is going to stop looking for him. To me, Randy is trapped from every direction. Heather could use him, Haley could betray him, Danny could pressure him, and Joey could come after him. And the more people who learn the truth about what Randy and Haley have been doing, the fewer places Randy has left to hide. So I think the real question isn't whether Randy is in danger. It's who he will betray first when he realizes there is no other way out. If there's one thing I think we can expect from the week of August 17th through August 21st on Beyond the Gates, it's that Bill Hamilton is nowhere near being out of trouble. Bill is still in the hospital, but his biggest problem may not be his medical condition. It could be Vernon Dupree, who is clearly not prepared to sit back and watch Bill continue to play with Danny's emotions. I was wondering just how long Vernon would tolerate the lingering connection between his daughter and her former husband. Bill and Danny may be divorced, but there's obviously still a strong pull between them. The problem is that Bill has already moved on with Haley, and from everything we're seeing, Haley would probably prefer that Bill's attention be focused anywhere but on Danny. That makes Vernon's confrontation with Bill particularly interesting. I think Vernon is going to make it very clear that he knows what Bill is feeling, and he may demand that Bill explain exactly what he intends to do about Danny. If Bill thinks he can keep those feelings hidden, he may be seriously underestimating Vernon. And things could get even worse later in the week when Bill flirts with disaster. I'm not sure exactly what that means yet, but considering how much pressure is already building around him, one wrong move could push Bill into an even more dangerous situation. Then there's Danny and Haley. Danny has already made it clear that she isn't intimidated by Bill's second wife. She confronted Haley in the hospital and basically told her that, no matter what, she would always be there for Bill. So, naturally, I think these two women are headed for another collision. By Friday, Danny locks horns with Haley, and I wouldn't be surprised if their confrontation exposes just how deep the tension between them really goes. Danny may believe she has a permanent place in Bill's life, while Haley seems determined to remove every obstacle standing between herself and the future she wants. Meanwhile, Chelsea and Kat have their own controversial situation brewing. The two meet with Anita, and whatever they propose appears to involve mixing fashion with controversy. I'm curious about this storyline because it sounds like something that could easily create problems for all three women. Chelsea also has a much more emotional battle ahead. By Friday, she's haunted by unresolved trauma, while her father reaches his breaking point. To me, that sounds like the kind of storyline that could connect Chelsea's personal struggles directly to the chaos surrounding Bill. Monday, August 17th. Monday starts with Andre being pulled back toward his past. I think whatever he has been trying to leave behind may not be finished with him yet. Tensions also rise between Tomas and Naomi, while Chelsea and Kat take their controversial fashion idea to Anita. But the major development could be Vernon confronting Bill about his intentions with Danny. I have a feeling this conversation is going to be much more serious than Bill expects. Tuesday, August 18th. Tuesday brings even more conflict. Bill flirts with disaster, while Haley and Ashley clash. Eva's words push Leslie into action, and Carlton gives Ted an important update, while Nicole does the same for Vanessa. Shanice also receives an unexpected request, and Smitty manages to disappoint Martin. There are a lot of moving pieces here, but Bill's situation remains the storyline I'll be watching most closely. If Vernon's warning doesn't get through to him, I think Bill could be walking straight into another disaster. Wednesday, August 19th. Nicole's plan saves the night for Noah, giving that storyline a much-needed turn. Danny and Andre appear ready to color outside the lines, while Jacob brings Grayson and Ashley together to surprise Naomi. Vernon also has plans involving Anita, but those plans are interrupted. I'm especially curious about Vernon and Anita because Vernon has already been putting pressure on Bill. If his attention shifts elsewhere, it could give Bill a brief opportunity to regroup or create an entirely different problem. Thursday, August 20th. Leslie is forced to confront her past before she can truly move forward with her future. Bill and Ted bond over their shared history, which could give us a different side of Bill than we normally see. I think this conversation could become important if Bill is forced to reflect on the choices that brought him to this point. Nicole also has an unexpected reaction that causes her to examine herself in front of Kyle. Meanwhile, Eva and Isaiah exchange some hard truths. Sometimes those honest conversations are where the biggest emotional shifts begin. So I'll be watching to see whether this changes their relationship. Friday, August 21st. Friday looks like the biggest day of the week. Chelsea is haunted by unresolved trauma, while Bill reaches his breaking point. That combination makes me think the emotional fallout could be significant for the entire family. And then Danny locks horns with Haley. I don't think this confrontation is going to be something either woman simply forgets. Danny has already made her position clear, and Haley has every reason to see Danny as a threat. Elsewhere, Randy tails Heather, while Madison receives conflicting information from two adversaries. Overall, I think this week is setting up several major confrontations, but Bill remains at the center of the storm. Vernon is watching him. Danny still has feelings for him. Haley wants him out of Danny's orbit, and Bill himself seems incapable of completely letting go of the past. I could be wrong, but to me, the biggest question isn't whether Bill and Danny still have chemistry. That seems obvious. The real question is how much damage that unresolved connection is going to cause before Bill finally makes a decision. And with Vernon now stepping in, I have a feeling Bill may not get to make that decision on his own terms. Beyond the Gate star, Colby Nixon has plenty to celebrate right now, but for her character, Kat Richardson, things are anything but simple. I think Nixon has landed in a pretty fascinating position. While the actress is enjoying the success of the CBS soap and its impressive Emmy recognition, Kat is facing one of the biggest decisions of her life. Her half-sister Eva Thomas desperately needs a liver transplant, and Kat has to decide whether she is willing to become the donor. And considering the history between these two women, that decision is about as complicated as a soap opera storyline can get. Beyond the Gates makes a major Emmy splash. Beyond the Gates received an impressive 15 nominations for the 2026 Daytime Emmy Awards during its first year of eligibility. The soap even earned a nomination in the Outstanding Daytime Drama Series category, making its Emmy debut a major achievement. Nixon said the cast is incredibly proud that both fans and critics have connected with the series. "I think we're all honored," Nixon explained, pointing to the excitement surrounding the show and the hard work that went into bringing it to life. To me, that kind of recognition is especially meaningful for a new soap. There is clearly a lot of pressure that comes with launching a daytime drama, so seeing Beyond the Gates immediately make such a strong impression has to feel rewarding for everyone involved. Interestingly, Nixon did not grow up watching soaps. However, she revealed that the genre may have been part of her story all along. She was actually named after the Colby family from Dynasty. So in a way, she already had a little soap opera history in her name. Nixon described Beyond the Gates as a sexy, dramatic story centered around the Dupree family and their efforts to protect everything they have built. Kat and Eva's liver transplant crisis. Now we get to the part that really has me wondering what Kat is going to do. Eva needs a liver transplant, and Kat may be one of the people who can save her life. But there is one enormous problem. Kat and Eva are enemies. This isn't exactly a case of two loving sisters putting their differences aside during a family emergency. Nixon acknowledged the tension, explaining that Kat has to decide whether she will give her half-sister a piece of her liver, even though Eva is essentially her ultimate enemy. And honestly, I think that is what makes this storyline so interesting. If Kat agrees to donate, she isn't simply helping a family member. She would be making an enormous sacrifice for someone she clearly does not trust or like. If she refuses, however, Kat could potentially have to live with knowing that she had the opportunity to help save Eva. That is a brutal choice. I was also amused by Nixon teasing another scene where Kat gets to read someone for filth. Apparently, even while facing a life-or-death family crisis, Kat is still Kat. I wouldn't expect her to suddenly become soft and sentimental just because Eva needs her. Colby Nixon's personal health advocacy. Outside of Beyond the Gates, Nixon is also using her platform to raise awareness about chronic illness. She has spoken publicly about living with lupus nephritis, a kidney complication associated with lupus, and she has been involved with the Black Health Matters Harlem Health Summit and Expo. Nixon explained that the event offers free health screenings and informative panels, something that is especially important to her because of her own experience with lupus. For Nixon, advocacy isn't simply another project, it is personal. I think that makes her involvement especially meaningful because she understands firsthand how important awareness, education, and access to health resources can be for people living with chronic illnesses. What will Kat do for Eva? With Beyond the Gates earning 15 Emmy nominations and Nixon continuing her advocacy work outside the soap, the actress has plenty to celebrate. But Kat Richardson has a much more difficult road ahead. The question I'm really watching now is whether Kat can put her hatred and history with Eva aside long enough to save her sister's life. Maybe she will agree to the transplant and surprise everyone. Maybe she will refuse and make this already explosive family feud even worse. And knowing soap operas, I wouldn't be surprised if there is another twist waiting before Kat ever gets the chance to make a final decision. I could be wrong, but I think this storyline has the potential to reveal a completely different side of Kat. Because when someone's life is literally in your hands, revenge suddenly becomes a very different kind of decision.